Hello, my friends, and welcome back to This Messy Business. We just got out for summer break, which means that during the month of Maycember, I think we should call it. I've seen a lot of memes going around on TikTok and Instagram that May is the equivalent for moms of, this holiday season. And that means that this teacher and mom really let things kind of get out of control. Those last couple weeks of school, we're all just trying to survive. Getting the kids through those last couple weeks, getting students through those last couple weeks, we're all just doing our best. So this is the honest truth of what my house looks like at the end of May as a teacher before going into the summer. We have been so busy even just this first week of summer. And I had hoped to get this video out even on Thursday last week. I don't know what I was thinking, that I could just clean my entire house in 2 days. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get this house totally reset. We're going to start with the main level. We have all of those stacks of papers and backpacks and bags full of books and different things and papers from their schools. So they just kind of unload into their backpacks and they bring it all home, and then we have to sift and sort through it. So Harper is my helper today. She's swinging around on the tripod as I work in here. So let's work on the main level and we will get all of this reset. I did manage to get the entire house reset. I did not film all of it, but I did get the whole house reset. Don't worry though, it is already a mess again. Have you ever had to clean your whole house? You spend your whole day cleaning your whole house so that way when the babysitter comes, you can be like, sorry about the mess. It's literally me right now. This cabinet right here is where I keep all of our school supplies, so I am going to be doing some homeschooling kind of stuff with the kids over the summer just to help maintain their learning throughout the year and we don't have any regression. The hard part is I'm definitely a high school teacher. Don't know how to teach kids how to read or things like that, so I do have to do a lot of research to help them, but I am committed to doing it. On Mondays we're going to do reading, Wednesdays we will do math, and then on Fridays we will do some sort of science. Lincoln really wants to learn about oceans, so we're going to start there. And then he, of course, wants to learn about video games. And we're just trying to keep him busy. I set him up for all kinds of things at the library. I also got this new picture at Hobby Lobby. I don't actually go to Hobby Lobby or Home Goods or anything like that very often because I do love to thrift and find things secondhand or have them customized on Etsy or printed off Etsy, those kind of things. But I did find this really gorgeous kind of mid-mod inspired painting that went along with all of my other art. So for instance, that absinthe roulette picture with the redhead lady in the background here, my sister actually acquired that, 10-15 years ago, something like that, from a client that she worked with at her job in Grand Junction. And then when she moved to Germany for a year, it just kind of became mine, sort of like that plant on the cabinet right there. And I love it. I love that kind of art like that vintage aesthetic kind of art, and then that size that would usually be really expensive, but perfect price, free. And there's just something about it. Here is my hutch. I don't think I've dusted this sucker in, I don't think we should talk about how long. Again, Maycember, guys, it's crazy. There's so many things happening. But here is my mid-century modern hutch. I love this thing. My mom and I found it on a thrift hunt. Love thrifting. And we need to get it reset and cleaned up because I feel like that's part of my summer projects. We just moved in September, which was obviously after the start of the school year. And we just kind of chucked stuff into cabinets. My number one goal was to get the boxes out of the house. They gave me so much anxiety, stressed me out. We just had to get the boxes out of the house. So not a lot of things were super organized, and that's kind of my journey now that we've been in the house almost a year, is to kind of just start that process of, okay, well, how actually do we want this to function better? We did set up some good systems, but how can we make this actually function a little bit better for our family? And how can I use spaces more intentionally? I do want it to be aesthetic. I do like to kind of keep it decluttered, but also we live here. all the time, and we want to get the most out of our mortgage. So we want to live in this house, but it does need to function. So we're taking all the things off of this cabinet to start, and then we will work together and reset it and redecorate. And I will explain the stories behind all the little things that I have here. It's my favorite.
So a bunch of the items that I have on this hutch are also kind of very sentimental items. So for example, my grandma in South Dakota, she collected teapots for a long time, still kind of does, and she gave me this one. So that was from my grandma. This is, I'm pretty sure, I know it was my grandma's, but it could have been also my great grandma's. She did needlepoint. We don't do stuff like that anymore. You know, we're like, hey, have you tried out this new filter? But back in the day, they're like, have you tried a daisy? You know, it's just different times. And then this is also, I think this thing's totally rad, was my grandma's. And my aunts told me that this came out when it was fancy time. And it does have a matching salad dressing pourer. And I just think it's so cool. My kids have put foam inside of it, but I just think it's so cool and so special to have. And I love the atomic colors and different things like that. So that's really cool. And it's heavy. It is very, very heavy. And then this is my great grandma's clock. I've tried fixing the batteries in it a few times, but it doesn't really work anymore. But I still think that's pretty special. I have students right now who actually can't tell time on a traditional clock. They need like a digital clock. It scares me a little. My grandma, I don't know if these were a gift to her or if she did them herself. I might have to ask my aunts, they might remember. But there were these two pictures in her house when we had to kind of go and take care of her estate after she passed. And I always think of monarch butterflies when it comes to my grandpa, who also passed away. He thought they were kind of a neat butterfly. I remember him saying that on a camping trip or something. And my grandma had these too. And it just felt really right that I brought them home with me. I also have a photo of my grandpa, and then that photo of my grandma that I showed you earlier. I just need to find a frame for it. I have vintage school books because I'm a teacher, and I used to try to make my sister learn multiplication tables. And then just a few other, fun kind of items that are really special. I'm looking at all of them on here now that are really special to me and have a story. I love those things. Even the plants. That one was from my sister. She didn't know she gave me that, but thanks for that. These are my wedding bouquet. I did have that made on Etsy because I didn't want the flowers to droop. I had a June wedding and it's in Colorado, so it could be 95 degrees or it could be a perfect 75. So I wanted to make sure that they stayed really fresh for the picture, and now I get to keep them. And my nephew and my nieces are up here. Just like some fun items that I get to display and get to have, and I can tell my kids the stories with. Something that's really important to me. It's maybe not perfectly aesthetic, but even the hutch, honestly, my mom and I found at a Salvation Army in Grand Junction, Colorado in she could tell me plan more exactly, but 2013 or so, and we got it for $60. I priced one similar just on Facebook Marketplace from a mid-century modern reseller, and with the glass, it's missing the glass sliders, but with the glass, this guy would sell for $2,400 in Denver. And Denver has a big market for that kind of style. We have a lot of 50s and 60s houses that people can buy, and so they can lean into the style. So they sell for quite a bit for this particular brand, this size, and this condition. So I feel really fortunate that we found it for $60, because as cool as it is, I'm not paying $2,400 for a piece of furniture when there's so many other things that need to happen, unless it's a couch, maybe a couch. But those are my special treats and trinkets that I like to have on display. I know it creates some extra dusting and maybe it's not super minimalist, but I want a cozy home. I want a home with a story. I don't need it to be beige and clean all the time and perfect. I do need it to be us. That's what I need. So there are 3 of us in my family, 3 kids.
It is the next day. It's the morning before I need to wake the kids up and get us off to school. But I did get this finished yesterday. I didn't realize my battery had died while I was filming. And I did really simplify a lot of what was on here. It still has a lot of my favorite memory pieces and things like that. Up here is my bouquet. I don't know if I talked about this yesterday or last time, but right here is a single red rose. At our wedding, I had a chair placed in the front row with one of my grandpa, here he is, Grandpa McDowell, one of his Western shirts on the chair and a sign that said "in loving memory," and then I think this photo as well. And then as my dad walked me down the aisle, I set the red rose on his chair. And it makes me tear up now thinking about it. My dad did not know that I was going to be doing that. It was sort of a surprise to him. And my grandpa was one of my favorite people growing up. Every summer, it felt like for the whole summer, my mom can probably correct me on this, but you know, time when you're 8 is different than when you're 35. But it felt like every summer we would go back to South Dakota. That's where my parents are from before they moved to Colorado. And we would go back to visit all of our extended family there, including my grandpa and cousins and my grandma and grandpa and all those people on my mom's side. And my grandpa, when we would roll up to his house in our minivan, there's 3 of us. This is our family portrait from, I think, 2010. And that's my older brother and my little sister, my mom and my dad. And we would roll up in our minivan and we'd come piling out. We'd open the doors and, you know, there'd be snack wrappers and fumes and whatever else rolling out of the car door when you have 3 kids in there. And my grandpa would be leaning. He had a true Midwestern ranch. So it had like the side drive and a side door. And we actually used that. I don't ever remember using his front door, to be honest. And he would be leaning on the railing of that side door. And as we'd come rolling out, hooting and hollering and whatever it was that we were doing, I remember him like drawling, like I can't necessarily do it myself. I don't have the right kind of accent, but he would say, "Well, what do we have here?" And that's honestly, it's one of my favorite stories, one of my favorite things about him. And I think those simple things are those that resonate. So having a red rose for him, he passed away, I believe it was my brother's 15th birthday, so it would have been 15 or more years ago. And just having these things that were his, like I still have several of his plaid shirts. I took pictures of my son in them when he was born. It's just, those are the things that I think matter. You know, I love aesthetics. I love aesthetically pleasing things, but I also love when my friends come over, I can tell them the stories of each piece that we have in our home and why it matters. So we do need to get the rest of the main level cleaned up. So here we are once again back in the bathroom, trying to get this space reset. It really doesn't take very long because there's not a giant vanity where I can pile things, and it's usually just taking out the laundry and kind of putting things back in their homes. So here I am putting the toys from the tub back into their little bucket right here. I do have some big plans for this bathroom just to kind of update it and bring it into the current century without having to do a major renovation. We would like to eventually do a rear configuration in here. I'd like to switch the vanity in the toilet, widen the vanity, things like that. That's not in the budget right now, and probably not for the next 5 years, if we're being honest. Our neighbors behind us had a very, very scary fence that was falling in to our yard, and we called them and we're like, "Hello, hi. You know, this is not the safest fence. Can we work together to kind of split the cost of putting in a new fence?" They said no, and they came out the next day, took out the entire fence, and left us with nothing. So we have kind of a chicken wire situation in the backyard right now, and we're just going to have to run chain link or something because they will not help with splitting the cost of the fence and replacing it. So it is falling totally on our shoulders to kind of do that. And we already have posts back there from the previous chain link. So we're just going to have to reuse those. I would love a wood fence, but that just wasn't something we had planned on this year of footing the whole cost for. So that's putting off a lot of other projects. But in this bathroom, I would like to do some wallpaper or stenciling kind of above that tile. And then I found some that has like a really cool vintage pattern that has that same kind of purple tone and greens. And then I want to get a longer, thicker runner rug for in here to kind of cover. I really hate the floors. I just really hate them. But they're in there. They are solidly in the ground, and it's just, again, not in the budget right now to pull out tile and completely redo tile in the bathroom or in the kitchen. So we're just going to make it work. I don't mind the vintage tile in here. And I think if I paint out the cabinets, either giving it kind of a different wood look, it is, you can't really see it in the picture, but they are pretty damaged, water damaged, because the people who had been in here for the last 10 years was like a constant stream of renters, evidently. And they just, you just don't take care of it the same way when you're a renter, typically. I mean, you try to and you intend to, but you just don't have that same kind of investment. So there's just that level of they've been damaged. I am going to take the doors off of this weird little nook thing and kind of repaint it and redo it so that I can just put the pretty jars and things like that in there and have it displayed. I have a giant knot on my head right now because one of those doors had like kind of gone open while I was in the shower and I hadn't seen it, or while I was cleaning, actually not in the shower. I was cleaning the shower and I stood up and I hit my head super hard on the little door that had floated open, and I'd really like just to take those off. The inside is not very cute right now, though. It's again renters, so it's kind of gross and just needs to be cleaned up and redone. And then I do have big plans for the doors over the summer. I feel like that was a pretty accessible DIY project that I can do, is add some framing to these flat hollow doors. We don't love the color of them. They're not original. These are not original doors to the house. So we're not hurting any 1950s feelings, but they're really dark and the hallway is really dark. And so you kind of walk into them in the night, especially if you are like me and you're blind. And so I'm not legally blind, but I have very thick glasses. So I walk into the doors all the time. Don't love it. All right, moving downstairs, this is our sensory slash playroom. Again, we are a neurodivergent family, so we have a trampoline, climbing, ladder, swing, a ring, nugget, all of those things to kind of help us regulate and, kind of keep our bodies in a safe space. Harper's my helper today, but again, during the month of May, this room just got completely out of hand. And I know it looks like these guys have a lot of toys, which they do, but for the record, there are 3 generations worth of Barbies in here. There's mine from when I was a kid, my sister-in-law's from when she was a kid, and then, of course, some of Harper's own. And then all of the Fisher-Price Little People things I found at thrift shops or have been given, or, anything along those lines. Even that giant Barbie house was actually mine when I was 6. My parents kind of kept it all these years, and it's a solid plastic Little Tikes Barbie house, has all the furniture, and she loves it. Even the TV in here we got secondhand from my husband's brother. So all of those things, like there is a lot, but almost all of their toys, except for her baby dolls, are contained to this room. I would love to do some other things in here as well, like do like an IKEA hack and do actual cabinets along one wall. I'd like to take one of the doors off. There's 2 closets in here. I'd like to take one of the doors off and just do shelving in the closet, because we don't necessarily need it for like coat storage or anything like that. So stuff's kind of just piled on the bottom. So I'd like to change one of those into just shelving. I think that'd be really handy and really nice. Eventually, if they grow out of the sensory playroom thing, this will turn into just like a kid's hang space or a guest room if my son ever wants to move downstairs. He probably would not move into this room. He'd probably move into the one with the bigger closet. Who knows though? Either way, changing out the closet shelving is not a big deal. Here we are though. We're just going to get this reset. It did take me probably 45 or 50 minutes just to get all of the stuff resorted. I do love these bins. They are a little chaotic looking, but they're clear, so Harper and Lincoln can help put things away back into the bins. It's mostly little Barbie toys, Lincoln logs, stacking blocks, and like just like the little plastic toys like giraffes and sharks and whatever. And just having the clear bins, they can see them. They hold up pretty well. I got them on Amazon. I think it's 6-pack for $26.99, and they fit into those IKEA cubes really well. So that helped. I think they can kind of clean up on their own. And then the art in here is all done by Lincoln and Harper, which I just think is really fun and cute. She's not super helpful, but she's hanging out, supporting me on my journey. We're watching Rapunzel, so she's so cute.
What you see, I just wanna understand what you see in me. And 4, 5, 6, am I complicating it? How could anybody love someone so damaged? And we don't always add up, but so 7, 8, 9, 10, baby, here we go again. If this is just a fraction of what lies ahead, then count me in, 'cause you know I'm loving this. I'm loving this. You make me feel even though I'm odd. Subtract what's left and carry my heart. Believe in what we got. Pay no attention what you've been taught. 7, 8, 9, 10, baby, here we go again. If this is just a fraction of what lies ahead, then count me in, 'cause you know I'm loving this. I'm loving this. You make me feel even though I'm odd. Subtract what's left and carry my heart. Believe in what we got. Pay no attention what you've been taught.
Here we are once again cleaning the kitchen. I feel like all I do is clean the kitchen over and over and over until I die, and do laundry. But we're grateful to have a great kitchen with lots of space so we can have everything we need. I did buy some things to try and make our own bread this summer and cookies and those kind of things. So I am excited to really live in the house this summer and get to experience it and not be as rushed trying to unpack and do all that. We did get the rooms cleaned, so here's Harper's room cleaned up. I didn't do any deep cleaning or organizing in here since I'll be taking it apart to paint it soon. And, I can save that for then. She also doesn't have a lot in here because it's not a very big room. And finally, here is Lincoln's room, which is also cleaned up. He has his tent, he has his comfy bed, piano that we got from my grandma. Everything is looking good in here as well. So thank you so much for joining me today as we started our summer reset and deep cleaning. There's way more to come, more projects, more DIY, more cleaning, so be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.